And okay. Hello everyone. Welcome to the 11th episode of Tech Talks with Santosh. And today we have a very special guest, Elise from
Hi.
France. Hey Elise, thanks for joining us today. And today we are going to talk about Vue.js, and we will talk about Vue.js 3, which is really interesting. And we will talk about Vite as well. So I'll just hand it over to Elise. So Elise, it's your stage is yours.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Well, yeah, so as Santosh said, we are going to talk about Vue 3 and more specifically to talk about the main, like the flag feature of Vue 3, which is the composition API. And then we
Mhm.
will say like a few words about Vite, which
Mhm.
is the new build dev tool, which comes
Mhm.
along Vue 3. So
Ah,
yeah, so that's it. But before we dive in, yep, here it goes. Before we dive in, maybe I can say a few words about myself, like very quickly. So I am basically a freelance developer, JavaScript developer, but I also do a bit of PHP. And I am LinkedIn instructor, and I am also a fresh in-dev.dev writer.
mhm.
So that's for me. And maybe like more interesting thing for this podcast is that I still have a strong focus on Angular, but I recently got really interested in Vue. So I guess maybe later we can talk about, if you want to, about the differences between the frameworks, about if it is interesting to know two frameworks and so on. So I think maybe it can be interesting. And yeah, last thing but not least, I am a French speaker. So this means that I have like kind of French accent. I think it's quite strong. So if you don't understand what I say, just feel free to tell me. Like I won't get upset, and I will just try to say it more clearly.
Cool.
So I hope I'm clear until now.
Yes, Alicia. And thanks for joining
Okay,
again.
great. Okay, so let's dive in then. So we will start with Vue 3. So the main feature of Vue 3. So Vue 3 is called One Piece. So that's the name of this release. You have to
Okay.
know that Vue, every major release, every release actually of Vue has a manga name, and this time is One Piece.
Okay.
And so Vue 3, so I'm quoting Evan Yu, Vue 3 is like like a big release. It's really a major release because it represented over 2 years of development, featuring 30 plus RFCs, 2,600 commits, 789 pull requests, 628 pull requests. Yeah, my English is French speaker, you know, from 99 contributors and amount of development and so on and so on. So it's like a very big thing. But I have a question now, which is, where is Vue 3? Why am I asking that? Because if we look for Vue GitHub, for example,
Yeah.
up, no, not composition API, not yet. Well, it's kind of slow. Yeah, so if we go here, then what do we see? And we go on the releases, on the tags, we see Vue 2.6. Uh-huh. But Vue 3 is already out. What's happening? And actually, that's the same if we go on NPM. Like the first, the main package, like the standard package, is the version 2.6. So that's kind of important because I think this can be confusing because, yeah, Vue 3 has been officially released 1 month ago, I think on the 17th of September, something like this.
Yeah, I think
But
it was. Yeah, it was during Vue.js Amsterdam, something like that. There was a conference.
yeah, exactly. It was, it was the last day of Vue.js Amsterdam, exactly. But when we go on NPM, we still see the 2.6 package.
Exactly.
So what's happening? Well, actually, it's normal. It's under control. It's just like Vue 3 is still on a separate repository,
Okay.
and it's still a distinct package. So actually, if you want to find Vue 3, you have to type Vue next. And this is the repo
Okay.
for Vue 3. And that's also a specific package on npm. Okay, so that's important to know. And so why? Well, because actually they decided to do a phase release process mainly for all the sub-projects to be ready. Because one thing it's very important to know about Vue.js is that Vue.js core is really focused only on the Vue model layer. Like it's quite small actually. And like, for example, a router does not belong to Vue core. It's like a separate package. It's like a sub package. And so that's very important. Like any app actually would not, like most of apps would not use only Vue core. They would use all other packages, many other packages. And that's very important that all these different sub-projects be already ready to support Vue 3 before Vue 3 becomes like the main, the standard on NPM.
Okay.
So yeah. So actually what will happen is that, what will happen is that the Vue 3 is even now it's stabilized, so people can use it. It's planned to switch, like to get back Vue 3 on the main repository to mix it in the same package. This is planned for the end of the year.
Okay.
So for now, we will see how we can do. Like, how do I use Vue 3? That's I think a question we can ask. So if we want to do a new project, that's very easy. We can scaffold it with the Vue CLI. So there is like an option, like do you want to install Vue 3 or Vue 2? And otherwise, you can use Vite, and that we will talk about Vite later. And it would basically use Vue 3 in any case. If you want to migrate one project to Vue 3, then the advice is to wait actually for the end of the year, because there will be a migration build, like to handle automatically most of the stuff. And but anyway, there is already some documentation about it. So yeah, also the documentation is a separate website. It's not the standard website. It's even the whole website is different. It's vue3.vue.js instead of vue.js.org. And in the docs, there is already a migration guide. But yeah, it's clearly stated that it's better to wait until the end of the year, especially if it is a big app. So yeah. But anyway, Vue 3 is already stabilized, and we can already see and have a look on the main features.
Okay.
So is there any question or whatever until now? I think it's pretty straightforward.
I mean, it's from Lars. How do you pronounce Vue?
Yeah, I guess that the only thing I can pronounce correctly in this whole podcast is Vue. So yeah, actually, I try to say it Vue like in English, but in French we will say Vue, like this, Vue and Vite. Oh, thank you for the question. That's pretty relevant.
Yeah, so I have one question here, Elise. So you're saying that, okay, in case you have a large application, we still need to wait. So here I have a question, which is like, in Angular, you know, right? Vue, this IV was released. So what Angular team decided to do was actually they created a monorepo. They added all the libraries actually which exist, most of the libraries which exist, and they tested it with IV if it works or not. For example, Angular Material, Bootstrap, NGX Bootstrap. So if they did that practice is like
Well,
Vue.
actually, they kind of do it because Vue, well, I don't know how I should pronounce it now. Well, I will try to pronounce it at the English way.
Mm-hmm.
It's already a monorepo. Like I can show you.
Okay. Okay.
Like if we go on the GitHub,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So on the GitHub Vue Next, which is
Mm-hmm.
free, it's already a monorepo, but it's a monorepo which only encompasses like the core things. So it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't include like the router, for example. It doesn't include state management. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
include like package for forms.
Yep.
So if we go in packages, we
Mm-hmm.
can see that we have all these packages,
Okay.
which
These
is
are all.
pretty, yeah, but that's all. Like all the other things are in other repositories.
Okay.
And but we will say a few words about it later. But
Mm-hmm.
actually, I was planning to say a few words about it later, but I can
Okay.
say it now. If we compare with Vue 2, yeah, and if we go in packages here,
Mm-hmm.
then as you can see, there are much less packages. So that was also one of the things with Vue 3 was to have more this idea of having many packages, like a monorepo with lots of packages, but still they wanted to keep it as small as possible.
Okay.
So
Okay.
yeah, it's kind of in between then. So
Yeah.
I guess yeah,
Mm-hmm.
for the the integration with sub projects, they cannot have, I guess, the logic like in Angular, like running tests in the whole repository. I guess it's like this, running tests in the whole repository and seeing that if the router, for example, if working, if the forms package is working and so on, I guess.
Okay. So in case, just let's say we have Vootify, right? So if I'm not wrong,
Hmm.
Vootify, which is another UI library for
Yeah.
Vue. So are we actually, as a part of Vue.js team, are they testing it with Vootify if it is compatible, or if they need to make some changes in case they move on to Vue 3?
Yeah, do you mean on the process, like how the process goes? Well, to be honest, this I don't know. I don't know how they do
Okay.
like
Mm-hmm.
to test it, but
Mm-hmm.
I can look for it. I can look for
Uh-huh.
it, and maybe
Okay.
we can
Okay.
link like some guest after, and I
Uh-huh.
could have a look on this. That's a good question.
Yeah, I mean, of course, once people upgrade, right? Let's say if I have an Vue project and I'm using Vootify, so Vootify should be also compatible with Vue 3 if I'm
Yeah,
updating.
yeah,
So,
definitely.
so they also have to. I mean, they have also have to actually release a new version which is like compatible
Yeah,
with Vue 3. So,
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
so is it like some team which is parallelly working on with the UI, the library part team, or is it something maybe
Do you
if
mean
you're aware
among
of?
Vue core?
Yes, I mean from Wu team and they are maybe working simultaneously with the library authors, right? As Angular did for Ivy.
Mm, well, I think that I don't know.
Uh-huh.
So that's just purely hypothesis. But
Mm-hmm.
according to what I heard, the structure in Vue
Mm-hmm.
is less hierarchical. Like
Mm-hmm.
since it's 100% open source project,
Mm-hmm.
it's more like okay, some people only belong to the core team. Some people may do different things, but it seems to me like something more flexible that you can find in Angular, for example.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, I have the feeling that it's more like okay, so this group of person is responsible for this package. Okay, so they
Okay.
adapt, but we leave them the time to adapt, and it's more like this. I think it's maybe less structured than what you could see in Angular, but it's
Okay.
purely
Hmm.
hypothesis,
Uh-huh.
honestly.
Okay. Cool. You
Um,
you can move
yeah,
on.
but anyway, yeah. So better to wait until the end of the year
Mm-hmm.
because there are so many differences that a package would probably not work if it is only
Ah,
designed for Vue 2.
ah.
Okay, so now let's dive in the main features of Vue 3.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the goal of Vue 3? Um, like I'm quoting again Evan Yu, who tells us that make Vue the whole idea is to make Vue more maintainable, faster, smaller, and scaling better. That's
Okay.
plenty of things.
Mm-hmm.
And more precisely, they wanted to incrementally make it more adaptable from small to big and complex apps. So why do they say that? Because as you know, Vue has this kind of reputation that it's like, okay, that's a cool framework, that's easy to learn, but that's good for like small apps, like for non-serious projects. That's a bit cliche,
Yeah.
but actually, I think that's an idea which is quite mainstream. And even people like I was listening to a podcast from Natalia Teprina, which is a core member, and she was saying that at any conference she went, there was always someone to ask her something like, hey, okay, Vue is cool, but is it okay like for serious project, like for company project and so on? So Vue has this reputation of being like not good like for good big complex projects. And actually, as we will see later, and in particularly with the composition API, there are some caveats which make Vue not unable to sustain big and complex projects, but maybe less adapted for that, which made Vue 2. So that's what they wanted to correct in Vue 3. They wanted to make it adaptable also for big and complex apps, and this mainly with the composition API. But at the same time, they did not want to sacrifice the simplicity, like the intuitivity of Vue. So I hope it's clear, like what I mean. It's like, make it more adaptable,
So
like to any range.
yeah, so if I have to talk in terms of Angular, so they don't want you to actually make developers rewrite, so they still wanted to support Vue 2, and you can simultaneously upgrade to Vue 3. So it's not
Sorry.
like Angular JS. I mean, it's not like
Yeah,
Angular JS and
exactly.
Angular.
That's a really good point, and I wanted to insist on that. And it's not like this, that's
And
all
that's what
the.
Angular developers say.
Do you mean that they are saying that Angular is the the best, like to have to handle complex apps? Maybe it is.
Maybe, yeah. Cool.
But in any case, that's a really good point. That it's not like a total breaking change. There are of course breaking changes, but it's like 95% of the API is the same, like between Vue 2 and Vue 3. It's only like incremental changes. They wanted to add some stuff, but if you want to keep on using Vue in Vue 3, coding the same way you wanted to code in Vue 2, then it's okay. It's no problem.
Yep.
So yeah.
That's good.
So more maintainable. So what does even Vue means with that? Well, first, that's what we mentioned before. There is this modularization of Vue core. Like as I showed, like we have like few packages, and we have much more packages here on Vue 3. So the previous one, this one was for Vue 2, and this one was for Vue 3. So the idea is that Vue 2 was a bit like monolithic, like a big like a black box. And so they split it in many packages because, of course, it's more maintainable. But also some packages, and that's an important point, some packages can be used standalone, like alone. For example, the reactivity can be used anywhere, even in a non-Vue app, like in
Okay.
So that's wanted. That's something they wanted to do, and so you can include Vue reactivity in your own app if you want. And so this is a big point. A second point is that the whole code base has been completely rewritten in TypeScript. So before they were using Flow, which is like static TypeScript type checker, I think, but it was written in JavaScript, of course. So they have rewritten everything in TypeScript. And the cool thing when I'm talking about more maintainable, it's more like on the view side, like a view core, like how they maintain their the view core. But this also has a consequence for the user, because now, since it is written in TypeScript, then the TypeScript support is also better for the end user.
Yep. Okay.
Like the TypeScript integration in the code editor, stuff like this. So yeah, so that's the two main points.
Okay.
So about scaling better. So this is mostly about the composition API. So we will talk about this more deeply later. But for now, we can say that this is something which will help for the logic organization, encapsulation, and reuse of code. So basically, like a problem with Vue, something which might be a bit confusing for developers, like for example, for Angular developers, is that in the Vue component, there is a kind of architecture which tends to split the logic. And if you have a component which is very complicated with a couple of features, for example, then these features might be split in many places. With the composition API, you can like extract all this logic and put it at some place that you want, in the way that you want, in the order that you want. So it's much clearer. We will have I did an example, so we will have a look on this, but that's the idea. And yeah, as we said before, this is like totally optional. Actually, there has been a big misunderstanding about this when the core team first suggested the composition API, because they do this RFC thing, like they propose their features and the user can comment. And at the beginning, it was not clear whether it was optional or whether it was totally compulsory, and people thought it was compulsory, and then it was like terrible. Yeah, it was like a big drama. And there is an article, I forgot the name who wrote this, but I can link it later. It's called Vue Darkest Day, and yeah, it's quite interesting. So yeah, it's purely optional. And yeah, as I said before, like there is this better TypeScript support, which of course is a good point, like for scaling an application. And let's think. So it is faster. So I won't expand on this point because this is definitely out of my scope. But basically, like the compiler has been changed, improved, and now it generates render function. The render function is like for rendering the templates, JavaScript, which will render the template, which are kind of smarter. So when the compiler transforms the template into the render function, it kind of leaves some hints of where is interpolation, for example, where is data binding, where is this, where is that, and it's easier than on the runtime to update this part.
Okay, that's cool. So they wrote their own version of Ivy.
Yeah, kind of. I guess so.
Cool.
And this one is the last point. It's also smaller. So now it's 23 KBs on the normal package, which is like the Vue 2 size, but there are more features such as the composition API, for example, other features also. And as I mentioned before, oh no, I haven't mentioned it, sorry. It's also very modular, like as I said, like there are all these packages. This means also that you can kind of choose, okay, I want this, I don't want this. So if you really want to have the super small, super minimal version of Vue, then you can shut down to 12 KB.
This is prod build or like this is development build? Or we don't have any?
No. Like it's like a prod build and minified and so on, like the smallest of the smallest.
Okay. This is minified and okay, cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if I just use a Vue core, it will be like 12 KB, just 12 KB.
Yeah, if you just use it, and if you do not use the if you only use the composition API, like because in Vue 2 there is the option API. This is the standard way of doing things.
Okay.
So if, for example, you decide, okay, I don't want this anymore, and I use the composition API instead, so you remove it from the package, then you
Okay.
will be at 212. If you keep the option API, you will be to 14, I think, or something like this.
Okay. That's even not much, right?
Yeah, I think it's okay.
Okay, let's
Okay,
not talk about.
so that's for like the idea behind Vue 3. Also, there are some nice to have new features such as suspense, such as teleport. Maybe we can detail it later if needed, or if there are questions on it. I'm
Okay.
not sure it's like the most important. Like I wanted to stick to the abstract
Yeah, that's
level.
good. That's good.
Okay, so maybe we could dive in now in the composition API.
Yep. I'm really interested about this.
The
Let's
mysterious
see
one.
what. Yeah. So let's
Okay,
see what.
so let's have a try. So
Yeah.
actually, I thought that maybe the best, like to understand the problem and to see how the composition API solve it, maybe would be to start with directly with an example, because I kind of explained before what it was useful, like reusability and so on, but I think it's like you cannot really understand it if you do not see an example.
Okay.
So if we have time, but because I'm afraid that I would need to explain maybe a bit of this. This is like a component, like a standard component.
Okay.
But if we have like 5 minutes, I think it should be enough.
We have a lot of time. Elise,
Okay.
we have a lot of time.
Okay, great. So this is like a standard component, and this component is written with the option API. So as you can see, why is that called option API? Because we have many options here: name, props, data, computed, and so on and so on.
Okay.
So I will switch on my code editor. Or maybe first I will show what this is supposed to do in the browser. So so this is a component which basically would get a list of to-do stuff and would show it, and would also have a feature which enable to search the to-dos that we want among this list.
Okay.
So I think with the example it will be clearer.
Yeah.
So that's it. So that's basically, as I said, this is a component which does two things. First, it goes to fetch the to-dos from the user of an ID, which here is one.
Okay.
And then it has this feature that we can search among these to-dos. So it's like two things. The thing is that these two logics are in the same component because it's the example, of course, but also it's quite how to say, coupled. I don't know if you can say this in English.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you. So so now I will switch to the code editor. And so how does it work?
So if you can zoom in a little bit.
Sure. If I can do that.
Control plus maybe. Try that. If you're.
Yeah, that's the awkward moment.
Yeah.
Appearance. Yeah.
It's
zoom in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
Is that enough or?
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. Yeah. Visible.
Okay. Great. Yeah. Normally I do it with the keyboard, but I don't know, it was not working.
Okay.
Demo effect, right? Okay. So what's happening here? as I said, we are using the option API, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what does it mean? This means that we have options. We
Uh-huh.
have all these options. So I don't
Okay.
know if you are already familiar a bit with that.
Uh,
Um,
I mean, I can relate them to the like properties in Angular, input properties, and if
yeah,
your lifecycle hooks.
yeah. So what do you see here, which might help us?
So mounted is like similar to on init, right? So in
Yeah,
Angular,
yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah. And then you have name, and this name is a property. No, props. So where user is one of the property,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
which we
exactly.
can take as input, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Huh.
Same as input. Yeah,
And then data,
great.
you are defining your states.
Yeah,
But- okay, so
pretty.
I
Yeah,
can write
pretty good.
Vue.js
Nice.
code.
Awesome. Perfect. So yeah, so these options are quite similar with Angular, and
Mhm.
there is this one which might be a bit more tricky
Okay.
because there is, I don't think, and that's a point we could discuss. I'm quite interested in that, but I don't think there is this strict equivalent in Angular. This is called
Hmm.
computed, and this actually, as it implies, computes new props, new properties
Okay.
uh, on the top of these properties.
Okay.
So here, in our case, we want to have the filtered to-dos,
Hmm.
and we compute this based
Okay.
on this property to-dos, like the
Okay.
whole
Okay.
to-dos, and
Uh-huh.
the filter query, which is the input from the user,
Hmm.
right? And so we have this very simple code here. So yeah, I think that in Angular you would need to use either RxJS to do that, because this is also reactive.
Yeah.
That's the point of the thing. Like this data model is
Hmm.
reactive. So of course, if you change something, you change to do, for example, you push something here, then this will appear. Sorry, this will appear here. Same for the filter query, right?
Yeah. So I think I can relate this to like you're trying to update your state, right, in the same code base.
Yeah. Well, it
I mean.
would be more that, and what last thought is interesting. I think I agree with him.
Hmm.
But yeah, that's exactly that. Or maybe it's on the opposite sense. Like it's like if this is updated, then
Hmm.
this will be updated.
Ah, okay. So yep.
So
So what last said? Yep. Composable, observable. So okay.
yeah, I think that you would need to achieve that with RxJS.
Or is
Like
subject? Yeah. Subject or behavior subject we can use.
yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
But I don't think it's like totally straightforward. I mean, you have to write this code, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
And I think that's a very interesting point in
Hmm.
view. Like having this is quite clear. And but yeah, well, I mean, it's also like all options are nice, but I find it quite easy to use.
Uh-huh.
And also in the same kind of same idea, we have also here the watch option.
Hmm.
So maybe you can guess what it does.
Similar to what AngularJS had watches. So whenever
Yeah,
you input something, it will just look for if there are any changes.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, here we tell Vue like, okay, I want to be noticed of every change of the user prop, and
Mm-hmm.
every time the user prop is changed, I want to do execute this function.
Oh, that's cool. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's a bit like kind of like I would say that computed is a shorthand, is a shortcut, sorry, for watch.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I found this pretty easy. So this is interesting, I think, because I mean, it's not yeah, it's kind of related with the composition API anyway. On reactivity, I found that Vue reactivity is quite easy to implement, and
Mm-hmm.
I think that's yeah, that's an interesting point for that. So the last option we have is the method. So that this is pretty straightforward, of course. So you just like put the method that you will use in any other option.
Okay.
And yeah, and all this like reappears in this template. So yeah, it's I think it's quite straightforward.
Yeah.
So let's go back to the slides and let's see what the issue is with this option API. So as I said, we have two features in this component. One, we want to fetch our to-dos. And second feature, we want to be able to search it.
Yep.
So the problem here is that everything is split. And what is highlighted on my screen is what matches the feature number 1, which is simply fetching the users plus watching that if we change the input, the user ID, then we will fetch new to-dos.
Okay.
Fetching to-dos, sorry. So yeah, I say it again because I think it might not be clear. So everything which is highlighted here is all that relates to the feature number 1, which is fetching all the to-dos from my user when my component is mounted here, plus watching if the user is changed, and in the case it is changed, then fetching again the to-dos.
Ah, cool.
Okay, is that clear?
Yep.
Okay, great. So as you can see, it's kind of split, right? Like you have this code everywhere in the component. And if I think about the feature number 2, which is us searching the to-dos according to the query which has been input by the user, then the code is here. So this is all the code which relates to this feature number 2. So it's kind of in the middle of, like, everything is mixed, right?
Yeah.
And that's one of the main issue, and perhaps that's also one of the reasons that people would say, oh yeah, a Vue is not good, like for complex apps and so on, because it's might be like hard to read. Like if you take an Angular component, then you have much more flexibility, like to arrange your code, right?
Yeah,
you can
exactly.
say, okay, I will put like a first block of code which is only about fetching the user and so on, and then I will put the second block of code which is about all this searching, right?
Yeah.
So the component API is here precisely like to handle this question, like to address this problem. And so now we can have a look to what it looks like with the composition API. I will show the code first, and maybe after we can discuss it if we have time or if you want. So yeah, so here is the code with the composition API.
Okay.
Because what does the composition API? It gives tools to the developer to be able to extract this part of all the logic from the component and to put it somewhere else, like in another file, and also to rearrange it. Okay. So here what I did is that I extracted all this logic, which is related to our 2 features. I extracted it from my component, and I put it in a function, which I can even put it in another file. Okay?
Okay.
So this is already a first point, because the fact that I can extract some logic from the component, this allows me to reuse it. Like I can use it for several components if I want. The second thing which is important here is that I can arrange in my function, I can arrange my code as I want. I do not have to anymore to split it among options. And we will see right now, like here, what is highlighted is what is about the first feature, fetching the users and watching if the user change. And what I highlight here is all that is about the second feature. So it's much clearer, right?
Yeah.
So maybe if we have time, we can say a bit more, like go a bit more into this. What do you think? Yep, nice.
Okay.
So here is my composition API. I will open a new file a new folder with the same version with the, no, here is with the option API, and I will open a new folder with the composition API so we can compare. So, oh no, sorry, I mistaked. Up. By the way, I think I have some neighbors which have music quite loud. I
No, we
hope you don't
cannot.
hear it. Okay,
No,
it's
we
fine.
don't.
Let me know if you can hear that.
No, it's okay. Anyways, it's Friday night, right? So let it
Yeah,
enjoy.
that's true.
Maybe there is user2 to delete it. Is that the file?
Sorry?
No, there was another tab maybe. So
Yeah. Yeah, it's okay. I'm just like a bit, how to say, I'm not used to be on direct on live, so
it's okay.
I'm kind of very slow. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
I'm not sure if I did the thing correctly. Yeah. I need like to do the same stuff like,
No, you have
wait,
already
what's
opened this
happening?
file. So you already have that file open on another tab, another window.
Yeah, I think
Uh,
so.
so you may.
Yeah, I want to open this. Why?
It's
Yeah.
already open. It's already
Okay,
open. That's
okay,
what
I
it's
know.
saying.
Yeah, VSC doesn't want that I open the same
Yeah,
folder like a
exactly.
couple
Yeah,
of times. I
they.
did not know that. I never
Yeah.
tried it before.
No,
Okay.
there is a new flag. I mean, in recent VS Code release, which can allow you to actually have multiple instances of same folder. But I'm not sure. I don't remember the flag.
Oh, yeah, I should have tried it before.
No, it's okay. Cool.
Sorry for that. Well,
Yeah.
I guess we will have to do. Oh, I know. I can compare with the slide and
Mm-hmm.
then put the code editor on the other
Mm-hmm.
side, so
Yeah.
we can compare stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I will keep the composition API here.
Mm-hmm.
I will just like, oh, yeah. Okay, I got it. Okay, and then
Yeah.
then I will just go on the good branch.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Ah.
I got it. Sorry again for the delay.
It's okay.
I hope people are not too much in a hurry.
It's okay.
So, here was my component with all my options, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Maybe, is that big enough? I'm not sure. Maybe
Um,
like this.
it's
Since I
okay. I
can't.
mean, you cannot. It's okay. It's visible.
Wow.
Maybe you can increase the editor size if possible.
Well, since I cannot really make this bigger, I hope it's okay.
Yeah, it's visible. It's visible. I
Well,
mean.
the most important thing is here.
Mm-hmm.
So my component was split in many options.
Mm-hmm.
And now my components looks like this. So that's the same component, but
Okay.
I added here this setup option.
Okay.
And the setup option calls this function,
Mm-hmm.
which is imported.
Okay.
And all my logic, I could take all my logic from the
Mm-hmm.
component to that module here,
Okay.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So this setup option is specific to the composition API, and it's only for this.
Okay.
So it also comes with U3.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so what's happening here? Well, as I said, I extracted all my code. But the problem is that my code here was splitted in options. And why was that splitted in options? Yeah, I ask you. I can even ask you the question that will be more like maybe more interesting. Why was that splitted in option according to you, Santosh?
I mean, more readable code, more maintainable. So anyone
Sorry,
easy to read,
since I
maybe.
cannot hear you.
Is it? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, okay. That was
Ah,
my mistake. Sorry. Yeah, I can hear you now.
okay, sorry. I mean, I said maybe it's more manageable, easy to read if we
Yeah,
split.
yeah, that's one thing. But basically, I mean, like in the for the component to be functional, like to be able to do what it does, like you need to split it in function, in
Okay.
options. Sorry.
Okay.
And I mean, outside of the developer experience,
Mm-hmm.
split it into functions, into options, then we are able to tell Vue, okay, this property, for example, is supposed to do something specific. This method is supposed to do something specific, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So, for example, all that we put into data,
Mm-hmm.
when we put something into data, and that's maybe the most important thing, as you said before, in data we keep our state,
Mm-hmm.
but also we tell Vue that all these options are reactive.
Ah, okay.
So we tell Vue, okay, if I change my filter query here,
Mm-hmm.
then I want Vue to update it in my template, for example.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Or I want that filter to do be updated as well.
Mm-hmm.
So everything that we put here, we
Mm-hmm.
tell Vue to be reactive.
Okay.
And that's very important because if we extract our code, if we
Mm-hmm.
extract this code, we also extract the instantiation of these properties,
Mm-hmm.
then we have somehow to tell Vue that, okay, this to-do that I will declare here is reactive. I want you to look for it and update the template with it change and so on and so on. So that's the reason why I could not, for example, in Vue 2, just take all this code and put it somewhere else
Okay.
because I did not have the tool to tell Vue, okay, to do is a reactive data, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But with the composition API, then I have these tools
Okay.
and several tools actually. And here, for example, we use that's the most common tool for that is the function ref.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So ref basically will register our variable as a
Mm-hmm.
reactive one. So
Okay.
when I
Mm-hmm.
declare like const to do is equal to ref to something, I am saying, okay, this thing will be reactive. I want Vue to watch it, like to change it in my template, to watch if it is in computed properties and so on and so on.
Oh, that's cool.
So that's the first thing.
Mm-hmm.
But you will tell me, okay, I tell Vue to watch it there in a
Mm-hmm.
file, which is not in my component. How do I link it with my component, right?
Yeah.
Then it is linked because it is returned here.
Oh, okay.
It
Mm-hmm.
is, that's the API, which is like this, but I think
Mm-hmm.
it might be kind of confusing. We can discuss that later, but
Mm-hmm.
it somehow makes sense as well. We say Vue, we tell Vue, okay, I want this to be reactive, and then we return it for our function,
Mm-hmm.
and this is returned here. This is
Mm-hmm.
also returned from the setup option.
Okay.
And once it is returned from the setup option, then it is exposed to the component.
Okay.
I don't know if it feels clear until now.
I mean, yeah, I got it. So,
Nice.
okay.
So yeah, so that's the basic concept of
Mm-hmm.
the composition API. The idea is really that, like, to provide the tools to give the same information to Vue, like this is
Mm-hmm.
computed, this is watched, this is reactive, and so on, but not in a component, like
Mm-hmm.
through methods that we can import from just anywhere.
Okay. Okay.
So let's have a look to, for example, the computed properties,
Mm-hmm.
because we have seen that. So for data, that's quite
Mm-hmm.
easy.
Mm-hmm.
We use refs
Okay.
here or there,
Mm-hmm.
and with ref we say Vue, okay, this is reactive. What about
Mm-hmm.
computed? Because I have this filter to do, for example, that I want
Yeah.
to um, make it reactive because reactive on the top of my data model, on the top of to-do and filter query, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's computed on to-do and filter query. So basically, I want that filter to-do, I want that it get updated anytime that to-do or filter query is updated, right?
Yeah.
So that's exactly the same idea. All that I have to say is to use the computed method, computed
Yeah.
function,
Mm-hmm.
and also I pass here the callback, like
Mm-hmm.
what
Callback
I
function.
want to execute.
Mm-hmm.
And this will register this as a computed property related to the property filter query and the property to do.
Mm-hmm. Okay. It's cool.
Right?
Okay.
So it's pretty useful so far.
Mm-hmm.
And we can also register some hooks, lifecycle
Okay.
hooks.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the same idea. We
Oh,
will register it through this method, which is called
okay.
unmounted.
Okay.
We also had a watcher, so same. We register. We
Uh-huh.
tell Vue, okay, I want,
To watch get
um, yeah, I want to watch, and I think would it be a
get user.
mistake? Watch get user. No, it's okay. Uh,
It's the same.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's okay. Sorry. And yeah, it's, I thought I had a mistake, but it's working normally.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so that's basically the idea. And all these methods, so there are others, but all these methods I like here to replace all the options that are in my component.
Ah,
So yeah.
I mean, to be frank, this code this code reminds me of factories which we had used to have in AngularJS. So similar code. I'm sure Lars can relate if I mean he has worked on AngularJS. I think so. It was same as factories in AngularJS.
And yeah, I don't know if it is a good thing or a bad thing then.
I mean, of course, the good thing is, of course, if you have worked in AngularJS, you can relate to it. But of course, in Angular, we already have an habit of like splitting everything into different files. But yeah, it will be more manageable, which I can, the advantage which you can see right now is you have actually removed everything, most of the logic from your component part, and you are putting it into a separate file, which is
Yeah,
a
yeah,
good thing.
yeah. So not only I am removing it from my component, but also it is much, I can arrange it as I want.
Mm-hmm.
So like here, all this,
Mm-hmm.
so basically this is my code related to the first feature, and all this is my code related to the second feature. So it's less split, like it's less mixed. And
Mm-hmm.
of course you can go further, because me, for example, I put it in only one function, but if I want, I could have put this in another function or even another module. And yeah, exactly, Lars is totally right. It's actually it's kind of not similar, and I am definitely not an expert on React hooks, so I would not go into that, except that if you, Santosh, maybe
Mm-hmm.
have some insight on this. I don't have
Yes,
many, so
uh, I've never used. I mean, not many hooks in React, and I'm not into React anyways. So maybe, but I can more relate this to actually the factories which were there in AngularJS. I mean, Sriram also says the same thing. So yeah, I mean, maybe if, it's something new for React developers and Vue.js developers, but it was already there in Angular world, AngularJS world. Sorry.
and so could you like relate all this reactivity thing in the factory in
That
AngularJS?
was no, I think that was one thing which was missing in AngularJS. So we had to actually update everything. So if I have to talk about factories, it was more like a service. That's it. So it's a service which provides you some functions which you can actually inject, and you can use it anywhere. That part is more relatable. But the extra thing which we are doing here is, as Last mentioned, right? So Last mentioned that it looks like a functional component with React hooks. React hooks does similar thing,
Yeah,
where
yeah,
you
yeah,
can
yeah,
actually
definitely.
bind your state and what function to call.
Yeah, well, I don't know enough about AngularJS
Mm.
factories. Actually, I don't know it all.
Yeah. So we still have factories in Angular as well, right? But yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
the good thing I can see right now is if I have worked in Angular, or even if I have worked in React, and I have to, let's say, tomorrow work on a project which is Vue, I can easily do that now with functional composition API. Sorry.
Yeah, yeah, we already have the skill, right?
Yeah.
The I would say that so the API is it's pretty cool, like, because it's clearer
Hmm.
and so on. I think there are also a couple of stuffs which might be confusing, like
Hmm.
in particular this relation to reactivity. Um, like you have really to keep in mind, like to understand, either to remind it, but it's better to understand because otherwise you may forget very
Hmm.
easily. Like to remind always, like to work with ref,
Hmm.
which is actually that's a wrapper around this value. So ref does not much. It just like wrap uh, this value, which
Hmm.
can be an object like here, but which can also
Okay.
be a primitive like
Hmm.
here, and it will wrap it in an object in order to
Hmm.
have a reference.
Ah, okay.
Because yeah, actually, if you have here filter query is a primitive type, right? That's a primitive type because it's a string. And
Ah.
then if you return a string like directly,
Hmm.
then you will just have the string, right? You won't have
Yeah.
any reference.
Uh-huh.
If with this, like this is an object, you could have returned this object, this array, and then work with this array, and you will still have the link on between the code here and what you do in your component with this array, right?
Hmm.
But here with a primitive, like you only return a value. So that's the reason why it's needed to wrap it in an object.
Okay.
But that's only what ref does. But the thing is that there are a couple of things which are reactive, um, reactivity related,
Hmm.
which are maybe not so clear, like to the developer, like including myself.
Hmm.
And I think this might be confusing. Like for example, here we have already so here with ref we were like transforming a value
Hmm.
or maybe an object into an
Hmm.
object in order to be able to work with a reference.
Hmm.
Here, for example, we got as argument props, which are
Hmm.
the props which has been passed from the parent to the child.
Hmm.
And from this prop, we extract the user
User.
prop,
Hmm.
which, as we mentioned before, because we want to look for to-dos by users, right?
Yeah.
The thing with prop is that it's already a kind of reactive object. So how
Hmm.
do we do then? Um, if we do only props.user, this will return us a value, like a number, for
Okay.
example.
Hmm.
And then if you work with this number, then you will have the problem I described, is that if I return it or if I work it with this somewhere, I will just get a value. I won't have a reference which I
Uh-huh.
can bind to reactivity.
Um,
So for example, here, props, then since it's already like a reactive, it's something, a reactive variable, and then you want to get one property of this reactive variable,
mhm.
you cannot get it like this. You have to go through to ref
Okay.
function, which
Mhm.
will do something like, okay, I get this function, I get this property, and I
Mhm.
turn into a reactive reference.
Okay. Mhm.
So it's not clear at all what I am saying.
No, I
I'm
got it. I
totally
mean,
aware of that. Okay, that's
I
great.
can relate. I can relate.
Because to be honest, it's also not 100% clear for me either.
Uh-huh.
So I just apply the documentation.
Ah, okay.
But I think these things, for example, might be a bit confusing
Mhm.
because you have all this thing like to understand and either to understand or either to
Mhm.
remember. And yeah, I think these things can be pretty confusing.
Mhm.
Also, what to return, what not to return. Also, it's so yeah, I think that's a trade-off. Like,
Okay.
yeah,
So
but yeah,
we have to always like so two refs we have to always call whatever properties we are passing, right? So it's not something which is optional.
sorry.
So I'm saying this two refs method which we have, right? Two refs, then you have passing properties. So it's mandatory.
To pass properties, no, it's not mandatory, but
No,
it's in my use case I had to do it,
okay, okay,
and
okay.
that's generally speaking what is done actually. But yeah, it's not mandatory. Like I could
Okay.
remove it if I wanted to.
Uh-huh.
And
In case,
also,
okay.
also
Yeah.
one interesting thing with yeah, that's good that you mentioned it. One interesting thing with this composition API is that you can much more easily reuse your code
Uh-huh.
than with components,
Yeah.
because as I said, like, okay, you can extract it, but you can also make it more general. For example, I could
Mm-hmm.
have removed this
Mm-hmm.
and put it as an argument here.
Ah,
Well, actually, it would have been something like URL. And yeah, so I can make this thing much more general than
mm-hmm.
what I could do with components.
Okay.
Like with components, what I would have to do if I wanted to extract a part of this component would have been to do a mixin,
Okay.
which would be kind of a basic class which can be extended if we want to relate to something with classes, for example, with
Mm-hmm.
I like it would be, yeah, maybe like kind of extendable component or something like
Yeah, got
this.
it. Yeah. I think
And
the TypeScript has some concept of mixins
yeah,
as well,
yeah,
where you
exactly,
can extend. Yeah. Yeah.
exactly, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's right. And the thing with mixin is that it's not how to say, it's not generalizable. You cannot pass arguments to mixin.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So you have your code, you have your URL, for example,
Mm-hmm.
you have this string, then you cannot pass it as arguments.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not really reusable.
Okay.
So that's also one of the important things with the composition API.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Good.
so if there is no more question, maybe we can move to Vite. I'm sorry, I think we already spent more than 1 hour, like one
That's
hour
absolutely
already.
fine. Don't worry about the time. I'm
Okay,
because I'm getting to learn something new, and
okay.
I mean this is the best explanation I can find for composition API. So you explained
Oh,
it
nice.
really well.
Oh, thank you.
So I think when I start with Vue.js, it will be easily like it will be like cakewalk for me, right?
Great. Oh, I'm happy then. Well, so unless you have other questions, I will be very pleased to
No,
try to
I don't. We
answer.
don't have.
I then I can maybe do a little demo of Vite and say a few
Mhm,
words
yeah,
about it.
yeah, cool.
Okay, so I will first say a few words about it, then do
Mhm,
the demo.
yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to do that. Um, so yeah, I won't put it in full screen. I don't mind. Oh yeah, so now let's move to Vite.
Ah. So first is it's wit or white?
Well, actually, in French, you would say it vite, but I guess
Okay.
English-speaking people would say vite, so
Yeah.
I don't really know.
Okay, cool.
But I will say vite because for one time I can take advantage of my French accent.
Go ahead.
So, what is Vite? It's a
Mhm,
dev build tool. So actually, that's a tool which that's basically a local server development server
mhm.
and also a production server.
Okay.
So you can kind of use it instead of the Vue CLI, for example, kind of,
Mhm. Okay.
because there are many features which are in the CLI, which
Mhm,
might not be in Vite, and the
mhm.
opposite as well.
Okay.
And one interesting thing is that it is framework agnostic.
Oh, that's cool.
So you can write plugins
Mhm,
to use Vite with React, for example, or with Svelte. So there are already plugins for these two frameworks, or with any framework you want. Angular might be a bit harder because of the
I can
dependency
understand.
injection.
Yeah.
But we can talk it about later. That's kind of a hypothesis of mine. But yeah, so that's the idea. But there is a subtlety about this agnosticness of Vite, because Vue is still a first-class citizen for Vite. And there is in Vite core, there is some Vue code.
Okay.
So if you use Vite for another framework, such as React, then you may want to know that there is still some code which is in Vite, which is dedicated for Vue.
Okay.
Which doesn't really matter, because that's only a dev tool. I mean, it's not you don't mind if it is bigger, but yeah, that's one thing to know. But otherwise, it's perfectly workable, pluggable with anything that we want.
Okay.
And yeah, so it has been developed I think it has been very fast. I think they started development like maybe on March of this year, 2020. And they made it functional pretty fast. So it kind of come at the same time with Vue 3, but actually it's not part of Vue 3.
Okay.
So Vue 3 is still based on the CLI, and just like two projects. But Vite only works with Vue 3. So it's also quite related. It's quite related, but it's two different projects. So maybe before saying this very fast, I can do a short demo. So I will get back my application, and I want to get this. I don't need this anymore. And here. Okay. Yeah. I will try to make this bigger. Okay. So I stopped the Vite already. So I will turn it on now. And yeah. So that's all. That's already on. And of course, it's not working. Demo effect. What's happening? Oh, damn. It was working before. I invalid. Oh, yeah, of course. I changed the code before. Yeah. Sorry about that. I did this.
URL. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, I think it's okay now. Okay. So it should be working now. Okay. So I do the demo again.
It's working.
Check. Well, I will even open a new one. So it should not be working now because I want...
Okay, you have to start the server again.
Yeah. So now we are ready to do this. So I do it again. And see how long it takes. I mean, to build the whole app in development. So here, hello. Okay. Yeah. No, it was not responding. So I start. And it's done already.
That's super fast.
Yeah, that's pretty fast, right? And normally it appears very fast here as well. But since I already, normally it even looks better. But yeah. So yeah, it's very, 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 very fast. And if I change something, it's almost instantaneous. Instant, maybe. I don't know. I'm not sure if instantaneous exists. Instant, right?
Instant.
So if I change, for example, I would like to change something in my component. Here in the style, let's say I want to change the color. I will put red. And it's already changed.
Okay. So that's That's
That's
magic.
pretty cool, right?
I mean, okay, you don't have to even recompile, so
Right, it's
that's
already changed. Like, yeah,
oh,
it's feel very instant. Like,
uh-huh.
I was when I was building the app, I was styling the app from my code editor,
Mm-hmm.
and then I forgot that. Oh yeah, I was believing it was in the console because it's so fast. It's like very
Yeah,
natural. Like you can say,
yeah, actually.
okay, I put background color.
Mm-hmm.
Oops, this won't be working through.
Mm-hmm.
Background color, and I will put this, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it appears like you can really definitely style your app like if you were doing it in the browser console. So
Mm-hmm.
that's really really cool. That's really enjoyable, really
Uh-huh.
pleasant.
That's awesome.
So um, let's go back to my slide if I can find it. Yeah. So the question we can ask now is why is it so fast?
Mm.
Dun-dun. And actually, that's because it is unbundled development.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if you heard already this term of unbundled, the
Unbundled. Yeah.
unbundled. Thank you, unbundled
Mm-hmm.
development.
Mm-hmm.
Do you already heard about this, or can you?
So yeah, so generally what happens in Angular is whenever you build, right, so you get multiple, some bundled files, for example
Yeah, yeah,
main.js,
definitely.
style.js. But here actually what we are doing is we, for every component, we are getting the JS files as it is, the
Yeah,
respective JS files.
yeah. Using the import statement, like the
Hmm.
ES6 imports,
Yeah.
then we
Hmm.
just get it like
Yeah.
as a cascade of like a water flow. Sorry, cascade is a French word. Like a
Hmm.
water flow of imports,
Yeah. Hmm.
and so that's why. Well, you since you don't have to bundle,
Yeah.
then you have a very fast start because
Yeah.
yeah, just like there is a kind of compilation phases, but it's very minor. It's very small. It's
Hmm.
kind of just transforming components into JavaScript,
Yeah.
or it's like much smaller than putting
Hmm.
them in a bundle and building the whole thing.
Yeah.
And also when once it is loaded and the app is running, when you change something, then there is a hot model reload, which is
Hmm.
pretty precise. And actually, the good thing is that on hot model reload, then you don't have to reload like on the worst case one bundle or maybe one piece of bundle. Because Vue 2, for example, which is bundled with, or Vue, even Vue 3, I mean, Vue with the CLI has bundle, but it
Hmm.
also supports hot model reload.
Okay.
So it would, on update, it would reload like small part of bundles, something like
Okay.
this. But here, it would just literally, on the best case, it will
Hmm.
just like reload the module, like precisely the component which has been changed. So maybe we can have a look on the app and on the browser console, like to see
Hmm.
how it goes, like more clearly.
Okay.
So yeah, I don't know why it's doing that. I don't know. Something happened, I guess.
Yeah.
Anyway, it doesn't change the way it works here.
Uh-huh.
So as you can see, we are importing app.view, which is
Okay.
like the root
Hmm.
component,
Hmm.
and it just looks like this.
Oh, okay.
So
Some
there is
inputs.
of course this thing which is like for debugging and stuff, but basically the code is like this. And it's very
Mm-hmm.
close to the source code. It's like almost the same.
Mm-hmm.
And from
Well,
here, we will import the user to do module
as in, okay.
as it
Huh.
definitely. And so if I change something, we can have a try
Mm-hmm.
if I can handle that. Yeah, I wanted to do this. No, yeah, here.
Mm-hmm.
And I would like to show, I cannot show the, well, if it is too hard, I won't, yeah, great. So I want just to remove this,
Mm-hmm.
and I change this. I would put white, and then that's it.
Okay.
You have only the component which is re-imported, and actually
Hmm.
it's even not only the component, it's only the CSS part of the component which is re-imported. You see the
Wow.
granularity of it, right?
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's very precise. It's great. It's really great. So yeah, it's very comfortable to work with, and it's
Mm-hmm.
pretty cool. There are a couple of drawbacks, of course. Unfortunately, first I would say that Vite is by design, it's really oriented to uh, new things like Vue 3 or new. You have, of course, to support ES6. As I was saying, I'm not sure that it would work with Angular
Mm-hmm.
because maybe that's purely hypothesis of mine, but maybe because of the dependency injection thing, like
Mm-hmm.
it's not how to say best directly based on ES6 modules.
Mm-hmm.
Like so, I'm not sure it could work with this. And yeah, also there is another thing with Vite. So on development, I am talking only about development because for
Mm-hmm.
production is something. It's actually for production, it's bundling as
Uh-huh.
it would any bundler do. It's bundling with Rollup,
Mm-hmm.
which is also based on ES6 modules.
Mm-hmm.
So it's pretty efficient and it gives like good results, like because there is good tree shaking because of ES6 modules and so on. So on production, it's like it's cool, like it's great. But either on development or on production, it may also I put it as hypothesis because things are changing, and I am talking about past experience I had when Vite was more in development.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that if you have like plenty of dependencies,
Mm-hmm.
some dependency may work less well,
Okay.
especially if
Mm-hmm.
they don't have like a distribution in AS6 models.
Okay.
So as far as I know, but again, I might not be updated with the latest updates.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm talking about dates back from maybe this summer.
Okay.
I should have checked this before the podcast. Definitely, I forgot about that. I can
No,
do it anyway for later,
yeah. I
and
mean,
maybe
I received a message yesterday from one of my friend on Twitter. He was saying the same thing that he tried wheat or white, and he was really actually surprised by the result. But he said, I think it still does not support in case you are using CommonJS modules. So if you have any
yeah.
CommonJS models, yeah.
Um, I think it should support it because
Mm-hmm.
um I had a feedback. I wrote an article recent like on the summer,
Mm-hmm.
and I had a feedback from Evan Yu
Okay.
himself, which who told me that actually it was something like supporting most of the cases, but not on
Okay.
all cases.
Okay.
I can find more precision update about this, and
Yeah, sure. I will.
maybe
Yeah,
we can
we can
link it
add
in the
that. Yeah.
description. Yeah,
Yeah.
because also these things are changing pretty fast. But yeah, that's the thing to keep in mind. Like it may not work in all cases.
Okay. Cool.
Even so, I think nobody should support like I don't know, maybe 95% of CommonJS module,
Mm-hmm.
but it will not support maybe all of them. But I will look for it, and we
Uh-huh.
can like try to do like to put thing more precise in the description.
Cool. We'll add that.
So yeah, so that's for a bit,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, I think we're pretty good now. So
Yeah,
actually, I think that's all for me.
that's pretty cool. I mean, I personally learned a lot of things related to Woo3
Great.
and especially
I hope it
composition.
was clear enough and that I
Uh,
was understandable.
yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm sure. many developers are like going to get I mean more idea about composition API from this podcast, and
Nice.
as well as Vite. So that's pretty cool. So we'll take one last questions. So I'm not, in case any you have any questions in chat window, you can share. Otherwise, we have a question on via Twitter. So let's take that question, and I'll just bring it here so I can add it. So this question was related to, of course, learning a new
Ah,
framework, right?
yeah.
So the question was, if you are learning one framework, at what point we should consider to learn another framework? We can only practice in one. I don't think there is a, like one can learn everything in one framework. What are your views?
Um, I think that first of all, like the more frameworks you learn, the easiest I think it gets to learn new frameworks. Like like for me, I was much focused on Angular before, and when I learned Vue or start learning, because I'm still learning, of course, then it felt me like very easy, like very easy. It's also maybe Vue API is kind of more intuitive maybe than the Angular one.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like this, but anyway, you have like the same concept. We come back and so on, and also the same. Like I learned a bit of React,
Mm-hmm.
not enough to be able to speak about hooks properly, but
Yeah.
like just like a functional learning. And
Uh-huh.
also, I had the same feeling that that's always the same kind of same paradigms which come back, the
Mhm, yeah.
same ideas, and
Right.
especially Vue is feels a bit like a mix between React and Angular. So if you know already these two frameworks, it can be worth like having a look on Vue. And I haven't seen Svelte yet,
Yeah.
but the syntax looks quite similar as well. But yeah, so that's the first thing. Like the more framework you learn, I think the easiest it becomes.
Yeah.
And also the second thing is that I have the feeling that when you learn another framework, like you gain more insight on the first framework, because you can
Agree.
like compare things. You get to
Mm-hmm.
know which thing are the concepts, which thing are specificities of a framework, and it gives you like another overview. And I think it's beneficial also for your first framework.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's the way you grow. That's one way to grow
Yeah.
as a web developer in the general and genuine sense.
Right. I think I agree with that. I mean, I have learned a lot when I used to write .NET code, and then when I started writing Node.js code, I got few concepts cleared because the way they are written in Node, right? So that happens when once we actually shuffle between multiple frameworks, you will find, okay, this concept is easy to
Yeah,
understand here, and then you figure out, okay, this is what was happening inside maybe another framework.
yeah, definitely. Like
Yeah.
you get to better understand what are the fundamentals concepts, which
Yeah.
are the patterns that you can see on different places, and yeah, I think it's what I would recommend it.
Cool. Okay, so we don't have any other questions, and we are already above our time. But yeah,
Yeah.
so in case in case you have anything you want to promote on the channel, so any.
Well, not so much. I will just get some update about Vite, and
Uh-huh.
especially this module question,
Hmm.
because I think that's really important actually.
Okay.
And so I will try to find the latest update and put it. I will send it to you, Santoj, and
Yeah.
you can put it in the
Yeah.
description, for example.
Cool.
And otherwise, yeah, I hope you enjoyed, and
For
that
sure.
it makes you feel like. Do you want to try Vue now?
Uh, I would love to, but I have like a lot of things to do right now, so not for like 2020 at least, maybe 2021 I can. But yeah, I mean, I have been I loved Woo from long time. I even actually attended one of the workshops here in Pune from one of the core team member. I think
Oh,
he's
nice.
for so he's from former team core team member. So he was in Pune last year, so we met. Uh,
Nice, nice.
yeah. So that was really interesting. I mean, I would love to actually learn Vue rather than React, because I think Vue is very close to Angular JS, as far as I've seen. And now with TypeScript support, I think I should give it a try.
Nice. Wow. Then
So
then that's good. I'm satisfied then.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
yeah. I hope anyway that people will feel like trying Vue and really like the learning curve is quite fast.
Hmm.
So like it's
Yeah,
quite fun to do.
yeah. Thank you, Sriram, for joining. So Sriram says he
Oh,
will
thank
try
you.
to.
Thank you to you, Shiram.
Yeah. Okay. So so Elise, in case anyone has question related to the session, where they can reach out to you,
Yeah,
what is the
on Twitter maybe.
okay? Okay.
Yeah, I should have put it in the slide.
No, it's okay. I
So
will. I'll add your Twitter link in the
nice,
description. So in
nice,
case
perfect,
someone
great,
has question, they can actually ping you. I'll do
great.
that, and I will add the links to your slide, your uh, the uh, the post which you wrote about Vite. So there, I think there are there are two parts to that.
Yeah, two parts.
So
Yeah.
I'll just add those links as well in case you can find anything else related to composition API. Of course, share the slide link as well so we can add it and
Ah,
people can
yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. I can share the slide link. Yeah, of course. Yeah,
Yeah, so I'll just add everything into description. So in case
and
you are
even the
watching,
code
you can
actually, the code of the small
yeah.
app.
So you
It
can
will
yeah
be
yeah.
interesting. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I will
So you
send
can
it
share the GitHub.
everything. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, sure.
cool. So I'll just add everything into the link. So in case you are watching the video or you watch it later, just refer the description, and you will find everything which is discussed and as well as the code. So that's it for the day. I mean, thanks a lot, Elise, again. So I mean,
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
it was really interesting conversation. I was like, okay, let it go, let it go. I don't want to stop at least now. And of course, I learned a lot from this. So thanks again.
You're welcome.
Yeah. So in case so there are I was supposed to announce something. So there is a one. There is two announcements actually. So first announcement is I'm starting and one sessions. Uh, from November 18th. In case you are interested, I will be sharing the link on Twitter. You can actually go ahead and register or not register. Basically, it's a calendar invite. You can send me a calendar invite. It will be mostly on Wednesday, 20 minutes, one-on-one session. In case you have any questions, you can reach out to me, book the calendar, and we can have the discussion. So it will be like Indian
Nice.
time, 9:30 p.m. IST, and it's free. So don't worry about
Oh,
money. It's free.
that's great.
And one more announcement is I'm going to start streaming live code. I mean,
Oh,
I will be live coding. That will be another channel. I'll just post it about it maybe next week or after that. So there will be another channel where I'll stream live coding maybe, but it will be YouTube, not much on Twitch, but yeah, it will be on YouTube. And more announcement coming next week. So let's just keep watching me on Twitter. I'll be posting few things. So in case you have anything, you can always reach out.
great.
Cool. So that's
Congratulations.
it. Thank you. So yeah, let's end the stream and see you again next week. We will have the we for next week we have another guest from India. So his name is Sayak Paul, and we will be talking about ML and AI. So that's really interesting
Wow.
because that will be a very beginner level. So in case you want to start learning ML or AI, you are confused where to start, please join us next week. So
Nice.
Sayak is really into this machine learning thing, and he has written some blogs, and he interviews a lot of people from the ML and AI industry, uh, people from IBM and Google. So he has interviewed a lot of people. So I think that will
Wow.
be interesting, and you don't want to miss that episode
Yeah,
as well.
I will join definitely.
Yeah. So thank you, bye everyone. Good night.
Bye.
So just